just a little bit of introduction. I mean, I know we're going to introduce everybody in the room, but just so that you all know who are the main team members that are here. So my name is Sishi. I told the deputy team lead of Moonlight Research and Consulting Firm. So we're a Liberian-based consulting firm that has been supporting the Delta with USAID on their collaborative learning and adaptation. So there are key components of the Delta project that we've been supporting them, and one of them is providing support to LaCisa. So we are happy to be here with you all. We will lead this interactive engagement with the private sector. I think I will just let my team introduce themselves and then we'll open the floor. While we're doing the introduction, I think it would be good that as you're introducing yourself, you just give us one expectation that you have as far as this engagement today, that by the end of the day, what's one expectation that you want to get out of this workshop? Okay, so for me, well, my expectation would be to understand the challenges and issues that LaCisa is facing and how we can provide more support to them. So that's my expectation from the workshop. So I'll turn it over to the team.
Good morning to you all. My name is Gabriel Aitoka, and I am the CLA specialist working with Moonlight. Just want to welcome you.
What's your expectation?
My expectation from this workshop, well, today is day one. So today is a workshop with the private sector. Tomorrow will be with the donors and partners. And at the end of it, we are looking to have a secretariat established that can be able to continue the works of the authority. At least establish one with all of the partners, donors, private, and partners, CSOs. Welcome.
Good morning, guys. I'm Lishan, and my expectation today would be to learn more about the SISA's work, more insights into establishing the secretariat.
Great. Okay. So we'll just go around the table and then we'll extend to our colleagues that are on the other side. So welcome, sir. I know you're just coming in. Okay, so we're doing introductions. And we're also talking about one of our expectations out of this workshop today. Okay, so while we give you some time, we'll just go to the next person. Village champion. I met her at another workshop and they called her our village champion too.
So my name is Veronica Samuel-Johnson, and I work for the National Civil Society Council of IBU as one of the facilities member. I'm also a director and founder of the Positive Children Workers Initiative, the National NGO operates to expand the So I'm glad to be here, and CHCSK is champion. That's why I got in there. So I'm glad to be here. So one of my expectations from this workshop would be to see the formation of the secretariat and how it needs transparency in terms of data collection and collaboration with the sector or the civil society, the private sector, how we can come together and expand the economic sector in terms of transparency.
Fantastic. Thank you for that presentation.
Okay, my name is Stanford Kibali, and I'm the acting director of the Department of Policy Research Planning. And my expectation there is, like when you talk about LCs, a lot of them really don't have an idea, seriously. So my expectation today and going far is that as we have this team, will provide more awareness about LSR, and we have a comms team here to put that out, so more people get to know what we do, who we are, their interests, and all that. So that's, and also the secretariat. We've been working in the secretariat too. He'll be introducing the purpose in terms of reference. What I'm hoping is that we do a consensus around the formation of the secretariat, and hopefully it will do what it's supposed to do.
My name is Hattie Mrekonda. Work at Elsa.
Oh, Elsa.
Elsa.
Okay, thank you for that correction. It's probably the
Elsa.
Thank you. That's part of the branding.
So I'm the HR acting manager at Elsa. Today is just the first day, so I look forward to networking with the stakeholders that come around the table and get to meet in person about this. And hopefully see the secretariat set up.
I know we have our college people here, but you're in the room with us, so you can still introduce yourselves and tell us.
Okay, so I'm Josephine Gonti. I'm the corporate communication officer for Elsa. Yeah. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Olivia Brown, and I'm the branding lead architect for Elsa. And I also have to decide to say Elsa because Elsa and not LGJ. And hopefully by the end of this, we'll be able to get the representation for China. And we'll have more visibility because we're also going to be streaming.
Really welcome.
Elsa.
We should put that as a tag. Elsa. It's Elsa.
Elsa.
Yeah, thank you. So, I think let's just close out. Yeah.
My name is Ezekiel Escobar. In my expectation is that after this workshop, more awareness will become. And from that, Elsa will be able to help the private sector in keeping data. Because in the country, we have a serious problem. Those are basically called main ministries, entities who provide stable data. It's very difficult to do that. So usually, organization usually young people will come and do their own research. So we pray that this particular Elsa will help us in that direction.
Mr. Kim, thank you for that. I think the point that you're making as far as data collection is critical because I mean we need to know who we're targeting, right?
Right.
And without that information, usually people are, partners and donors that come in do not have like a reference point for all of the businesses. So I think getting that data will be critical for us moving forward. Sir?
Yeah, good morning. My name is Mansour Hussein. I'm the chief marketer for MP. Of course, my expectation for this seminar will be this speedy setting up of the secretariat. Yes, now. Because we are operating in Sierra Leone, Gambia, and Ivory Coast. And Liberia. Of course, with Elsa at the same time, sure, it was written trade. Because if you look at the population in Liberia, it's just 5 million, Sierra Leone is 8 million, Guinea is 16 million, Ivory Coast is 13 million. So if you can get all these 4 countries together in one market, they to split it together and of course give opportunity to private sectors and investors to invest in. Is MP working with any other special economic zones?
In the region.
In this region? Okay, so this would be good.
That's right.
Thank you.
Sir, in the back.
Alpha Joe, I'm the research officer for Elsa. My expectation is for so many people don't really understand the functionality of Elsa. By the end of this workshop, everybody will understand what Elsa is, what Elsa do, and what is Elsa mission, and then we can all collaborate to at least making that be really involved in manufacturing and production.
That's great. Thank you for that transition.
I'm Kelly Point. I'm also in the training research and policy department. And my expectation today after the workshop, every people after the workshop, we carry the new right side, the side of the move, not the first step in
Thank you for that visibility too.
Okay, my name is Senke Kalazon. I'm the program policy officer for the Department of Research And to expect that upon completion of this workshop, we will have a more vibrant and proactive secretariat that can move our mission, vision, and move values forward.
Great expectation. My name is Monica Buchanan from the Special Economic Zone. The research system, my expectation from this workshop is that it will get keen, more insight, and knowledge over the elections. Thank you.
I'm Sally T. Sape from Elsa. My expectation is for these 2 days, I will have a strong secretariat team that will help to promote Elsa and for Elsa to be the number one.
Thank you all so much for your introductions and also for the expectation. I think that a lot of these expectations, the reason why we wanted for everyone to kind of highlight their expectations, because oftentimes we come to these workshops and we're just not just here to sit, like this. The next 2 days are critical in us moving Elsa forward, right? And so we want all of the stakeholders to be very vocal about their expectations so that at the end of the 2 days, we know what we were able to achieve and what we have left and how do we move forward. Because for us at the New Line team, I think that it's very, very important that we get this secretariat of Elsa established. We feel like there is a gap in this sector, and we see an opportunity for Elsa to really take the lead in empowering and supporting Liberian businesses to move forward. So on that note, we will just move to Madam Hunter to do the welcome and opening remarks on behalf of Elsa.
And I think it's time first to recognize the organizers, our partners, staff of ELSA, the Liberia Special Economic Zones Authority, distinguished stakeholders gathered. Today marks another engagement that will set the stage for more collaborative efforts in encouraging investment, industrial development, and economic growth for our dear country, Liberia. The Liberia Special Economic Zones Authority, since its establishment, is poised to be the authority that will designate economic zones across the country that will drive investments by creating favorable business conditions. These special economic zones will not only attract foreign investments, but improve domestic investments most importantly. As two of its objectives, among many others, the Liberia Special Economic Zones Authority is to, one, encourage the private sector to participate in development, operations, maintenance, and management of special economic zones in Liberia, including the provision of infrastructure. Two, to coordinate with the private sector to train and improve the capacity of the Liberian workforce and ensure the protection of workers' rights. It has therefore become important to gather as private and public sectors to hold these discussions over the next 2 days. This stakeholders' engagement is mainly for the setting up of a secretariat that comprises representatives from the private and public sectors for strategic collaborations as a technical working group. On behalf of the organizers, our partner USAID, and the Liberia Special Economic Zones Authority, we welcome everyone present to these discussions. During the engagements today and tomorrow, the objective is to identify members and set up this secretariat, the technical working group. As we delve into the activities
for the day. We will get to know more about the Liberia Special Economic Zones Authority and its mandate to drive economic growth. You will understand why it is important to set up a secretariat for a great fall march in the sector. It is our anticipation, therefore, that these objectives will be achieved, and some of you will form part of the working groups. Once again, distinguished participants, ladies and gentlemen, you are most welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you for those opening remarks. I think that there were some strong points made in your opening remarks about how the private sector is basically the driver of development, and also that as we're working to establish the secretariat and establishing these economic zones, that it's not just for foreign direct investments, but also opportunity for local businesses to thrive as well. So thank you very much, Madam Hunter, for the opening remarks. We have on the agenda the introduction to LaCisa. Is there any Elsa? See, it's part of the branding. We will get there. We will get there. Elsa. Okay, so we have the introduction to Elsa. Is anyone here? Okay, you will do it. Okay, so we turn it.
I'm not trying to step in the shoes of my boss.
Okay.
Shoes are huge.
Yeah. But in his absence.
In his absence,
yes.
I'll just read excerpts from the act and the mandate of Elsa. Yeah, and that should give us. So the authority's mandate and administrative powers and duties, that's section 7 of the act. It says the powers, duties, functions, and responsibility of the authority under this act shall include the following. 1. Establish and cancel special economic zones subject to dispute resolution mechanisms provided for in this act. 2. To formulate and implement the national strategic policy and regulation, including proposing sites for the special economic zones development, to conclude administrative memorandum of understanding with all competent agencies, etc. 3. To regulate, supervise, and monitor special economic zones in the country. Then there are day-to-day activities to collect fees and pay for applications, licenses, permits, authorizations, certificates, approvals, services, leases, or other contracts or agreements granted, provided, or entered into by the authority under this act and the implementing regulations. Now jump to 5, and there are 7 of them. 7 is 5. Issuance and revocation of special economic zones licenses for both developers and operators. Special economic zones user licenses. Special economic zones certificate of residency. And 6 is under miscellaneous: to own, to hold, preserve, register, administer, mortgage, lease, sell, transfer, and regulate all assets, including special economic zones lands, as the special economic zones land administrator, by means of any legal mechanism consistent with the requirements designated in the implementing regulations and relevant memorandum of understanding. And 7, except as otherwise provided in this act, the authority shall not constitute a sales licensee or sales user. So it can be the authority at the same time. Yeah, and there are many details of information under each of those mandates, but that's the mandate of Liberia Special Economic Zones Authority.
Thank you. Thank you very much for reading some of the key elements out of that act so that we have a little bit more insight as to, why the act was, why the authority was even established in the first place. Okay, so to build on that, I think we'll turn it over to Gabriel to give us more information on the purpose of the secretariat. I think a lot of the stakeholders here have been saying that, we need to establish the secretariat. The secretariat is going to be key. So it will be good to get more information as to, what are some of the key purposes in the establishment of the secretariat that we want to achieve. So Gabriel, on to you.
Okay, thank you. So, Elsa, proposed secretariat. We'll just give you a quick background, just to buttress, Madam. The Special Economic Zone Authority is responsible for overseeing the development and regulation of special economic zones across Liberia. At this moment, I believe you have 5 designated zones. Eventually, you may be able to incorporate or add more for other zones, but the main one is in Buchanan. It's around 600 acres, and I know that right now is still in development. It's not really clear, but the land is needed, and it's under the authority's mandate, and it's in your possession. You also have the Freeport. I believe there's a free zone, and 3 more locations, but just for context sake, there are sites right now that will be places to be developed, and the focus will be manufacturing, light manufacturing, value added, and also one of the main components to the special economic zones will be the special agro-business processing zone through the African Developmental Bank. They've already got that set up. I believe there was 19.3 million or so designated for that. So that's another component of the special economic zones that's going to be great for Liberia, because we're really investing into agriculture. We need to move into light manufacturing, value added, to add more value to our crops and our raw materials. So the Special Economic Zone Authority is going to be able to oversee that. So they aim to attract both domestic and foreign investment by creating a conducive environment for business operations within these zones. These zones are going to be separate, and it's going to have its own rules of engagement and domain outside of just the Republic. The zones are going to be great. So the Secretariat will be a collaborative body that includes representatives from both public and private sector. The structure ensures that the Secretariat can effectively promote the SCZs, attract investments, create jobs, and contribute to the economic development and alignment of the AAID, the NADP, and the SDGs. So today and tomorrow, and even with our members, because we obviously there are more private sector members, but with those here present in the CSO, we want to get the feedback from you all. We want to get an understanding from you all when we go through the TOR, because you all will eventually become members of the Special Economic Zone, the Secretariat. So in order to become that, we will have to give you some context and background and how you can best represent your sector. The private sector is important, the public sector is important. All key partners are important, but we need to get everyone on the same page as well. So today's engagement is for private sector, tomorrow will be public engagement. The purpose and scope. The SCZ Authority Secretariat will support the SCZA mandate to develop, regulate, and oversee special economic zones to promote economic growth, attract investments. There'll also be a third-party monitoring, evaluating, and reporting on the SCZ performance and recommend improvements. So you have the authority, but the Secretariat's going to be there to support its day-to-day activities and to also work with all the partners and the donors. I'll stop here. As far as just context, we'll be moving into the certain terms of references, and there's also a living document that we have here that we'll be able to go through, and that will get your feedback as the private sector, and that will be the beginnings of finalizing that, the TOR. But we'll also get the feedback from the donors and the partners tomorrow to eventually create one document that you all will eventually validate. We're at the beginning process, so we want to make sure everybody's involved in the TOR. So by the time it gets to validation, we're not just inviting you to come sign off on something that you work hard at. So moving on to the next slide. I'll turn the over. Thank you very much.
So, the secretary is very important. The reason why it's important, before I come to the terms of reference, is that ELSA is going to be very, very busy when it starts to run. Of course, we have a board, but the board, as we know it, is, I won't say this, political, it's very political. So we actually need the secretary to do a lot of work, collect data, monitor meetings, promote, right? And it's that reason why the secretary will be drawn from the industry. So the term of reference here, coordination and communication. There'll be a lot of coordinating activities between various relevant government ministries. The secretary should ensure smooth communication. Sometimes in business and in government, communication is a problem, right? So there must be a group standing by somewhere that will help in the communication, day-to-day communication or the relevant communication from time to time, and coordination among stakeholders, all stakeholders, not just one group of stakeholders, but among all stakeholders. And the stakeholders for ELSA is government, private sector, donors. So all those people, we have to have smooth communication with them. This includes organizing meetings. It would be good to have a lot of meetings, again, to create awareness. The secretary is key in doing that too, preparing agendas for investors who are coming to make sure the agendas are relevant to what we're doing and distributing minutes. After every meeting, there will be some takeaways. The secretary should be in a position to let everybody know what is done. Term of reference 2, guidance. And again, we'll be having members of the secretary that will be coming from the industry, mining, agriculture, processing. It is the secretary as a strategic advisor, helping to align ELSA's programs in compliance with the National Development Plan and best international standards. So if we have people on the secretary who will be helping us, point us in the right direction, right? The NDP, National Agricultural Development Plan, that's a set agenda that we must align our activities with, whether you're in the sector of rice production, cocoa, the different persons, industry people who will be on the secretary with advisors as our board between the whole strategic work. We also have technical people in ELSA, but the secretary is strategically positioned to be able to prod us or push us in the right direction. Then stakeholder engagement is very important. I think this is our second stakeholder engagement. The first one was with the SAPs, Special Agronomic Zone, Processing Zone. But we have to continuously engage our stakeholders. As a matter of fact, right now, our stakeholders, many of our stakeholders really do not know who we are, where we are, what we do, right? So it is this engagement that will let a lot of people know who we are. So it's not going to be a one-time thing. This is the second one. This is not going to be the only one. And so we'll continuously engage our stakeholders across the spectrum. The ability to engage effectively with stakeholders is a key benefit of having a secretary to manage the relationship between regulators and other official stakeholders, ensuring its governance practices are well communicated and understood. And that is important because with ELSA, every zone will have regulations not as the same as outside. Because one good component or one good feature of the zone
I think they should say
one good feature of the zone is that the regulations that the zone will be having, it will be kind of relaxed to encourage investment. So the manage the relationship between regulators, that is very important. The LRA, all those other groups, the secretariat, will be front facing with it to make sure that people understand what the regulations are. As a matter of fact, the regulations for ELSA are currently being developed, and it's not something that we just take. And the reason why it's being done like that is to make sure that it's attractive. The fees will not be the same. The turnaround time for our entry business will not be the same. So the secretariat will be on top of all those things to ensure that people know that ELSA is ready. And then continuous improvement in best practices. And because of what my brother Tobias said for data, the secretary will make sure it collects a lot of data so that it build experiences and make corrections along the way, not to be making mistakes all the time, because there's no data to follow new data to use. So continuous improvement requires knowing the baseline, knowing where you are, knowing where you want to go. The secretary also benchmarks, set goals for person to reach. And so that's one of the two are there. The secretary must be dedicated to continuous improvement and adoption of best practices of ELSA. And that is why we're using a lot of industry experts. We're talking about how, we're going to get those people to join. The industry experts will also help us in ensuring that ELSA is continuously improved and best practices are adopted across the board. The secretary should be at the forefront of the innovation, bringing new ideas to the table. Being in the consulting and research area, I've seen some things, some innovations that are ongoing in the world, and while we're in that area, we actually don't know some of them in a way behind. For example, I know that in Poland, there are companies that produce 3 million eggs a day. 3 million eggs a day. And in 90 days, that means 3 million chickens. 3 billion spent hens are either euthanized, put in the fertilizer, and in our area. But imagine when those people found that there was a good market for spent hens. Our market has been overwhelmed with spent layers. It has driven the price of those who are producing chickens, eggs, way down. We have to use different innovations to catch up. How can we work with MOCI to let them know that we can't continue to import spent hens? Beldama from Cradle Farms, she raises chickens. But chickens, very, very quality chickens, very nice. It's $6. She's not alone, $6. Not as quality chicken, but for $4. The ones from Holland, the ones I'm talking about, there's no innovation at all. There's no kind of drive to improve in our sector. All we think about is lowest price. It's the same with packaged water. It's all drive down to the bottom because of price.
Which is low quality.
Exactly. So those are the things that the zone will try to promote. How can we do these things to help to create, a middle class? Because right now our middle class is being hindered by excessive inputs, low quality of manufacturing, and just lack of infrastructure. I'm doing something good. How do I get to export it? You can't. The export region is very prohibitive. I try to do some export stuff, but it just won't work because it's only like $500 for a 50 kilogram bag, 25 kilogram bag. How much am I going to sell it wherever I'm selling it to? So we have to, the secretary, we have to be at the forefront, it says, of innovation. How can we help Nigerians do those things we do? You can export because our global market is very, very constricted. An example is the market the single market is going to down. They all want the selling chips. Don't see nothing extra.
Yeah.
Because plastic things. All those plastic things are not being made.
I have a question.
Yeah.
We'll be focusing, or the SCZs will be focusing on exporting, obviously.
Yeah, it'll be export based and export based.
What will your focus be as far as import, or at least when you're saying you want to promote localization of local businesses? Will there be policies that will go against imports or try to reduce imports, or will you be working with MOCI with that?
No, so one thing I noticed too is the fact that all the things about import export, everything is driven by price.
Yeah.
So most of the brand farmers, for example, in the cocoa sector, they export everything they produce.
Yeah.
But imagine if they didn't have to export everything. Suppose like somebody came to the zone and said like, okay, we're gonna be producing cocoa powder, cocoa butter, cocoa this, cocoa that. Why do I have to export my stuff? And export is very expensive. You have to get insurance documents, you have to get all kinds of certificates. Yeah, all kinds of certificates. And they require you to get all kinds of quality that you can't even get. You know, I know somebody who was destroyed at the port in China just because they needed some kind of quality which they didn't even know about.
Yeah.
So if I am buying the palm to make different things, or I'm buying a cocoa to make different things, I don't think those people will be putting the cocoa in containers and selling it abroad. Right, so that's the point. So it's not going to be driven by extreme policies. It's going to be market driven.
Okay.
Actually, when it's market driven, you don't have to do a lot of work. Everybody just said, look, I just want to sell my stuff to the, and that's the same problem we're having in rubber, in cocoa, in everything else. So if we can solve that problem, and it's open to that. But if somebody comes from Asia, say, look, I want to establish a real smooth cheese factory in Liberia, and they have enough rubber and rib smoked cheese, you can produce pipe and tires, all kinds of different things. Who will export their rubber? So that's the kind of thing. And then the reference for the secretariat should ensure that practices evolve in line with the authority's values, benchmarking the authority's framework against industry best practices, which would help us maintain the company's competitive edge and reinforce its commitment to excellence in ethical and values-driven content. So there are a lot of people working in different industries in Liberia. So if those people are on the secretariat, they can provide information. They can provide information on they can provide information on the best practices. Look, if we came and said, look, we have to do this, we're trying to get ideas. They've been through it, they know it, and you can say, look, in this way, but the national or international best practice is this. This is how we have to do it if we're going to be serious, taken seriously in the work, which is one of the problems we have being taken seriously. Right? So best practices is also very important. And then number 5, provide support for the promotion and attraction of investment into SEZs. Provide support. I know there, I talked to a friend of mine, he says in Nigeria and some other places, there are SEZs that they spent millions of dollars to establish, and some of them are empty. Empty, very, very empty, maybe being used for different things. So support would mean that we want to establish SEZs, can we provide you with information on that establishment? So you don't come and invest, and then it doesn't work. And that would be a disincentive for us, because then it means that people will say like, man, that thing doesn't work where it's going, right? So there's a lot of support, technical support, information, research, and then finally for the promotion. That's why we have to stick to those things that we're good at. We're an agriculture producing country, we stick with agriculture. And then we can do other things, but for example, livestock is not bad, but we're not the livestock people. So here's the one who do cows, livestock stuff, right? So the support will be provided by the research, the secretariat, and sanction the research. We can go into business, and then industry experts there also help. And then even if it's workable, even if it's good, if there's no awareness around it, right? So one other zone that's being proposed is the education zone, which is making money in one other country. You have Harvard in Liberia, in not unnecessary Harvard, but a very good school where people come to from all around Africa using the same standards from that school in England. Same teachers almost, or relevant teachers from those countries have a Harvard here. People come here to go to that school and get a certificate or diploma from that school in Africa. It's built by some developer. Schools there. Teachers are top-notch international teachers. People come to that school. You build dormitories or you build apartments. Right? So what we have to do is to also increase our regulatory compliance. We have to make sure for those things to remain valid, we must make sure that it's regulated. Otherwise, people will come in pollute it, and then find an access to just have buildings and beautiful looking things.
When are your regulations coming in?
So the consultants who are doing the regulations, I think, from what I understand, the regulations should be ready in the next 2 weeks.
How many do you know? I mean,
The regulations?
Yeah.
So let's say that the regulations are just going to be not the same, but going to be an improved set of regulations for the court. Things that will be very attractive and beneficial. But we're not just going to give everything almost free just because we're attractive. There will be some, right and go incentive. You come in, and then maybe you go back out or whatever. But yeah, there'll be, they're working on it. It's a very collaborative processes with those who are already regulated. So we just want to see what's close and what will be beneficial. And that's easy.
Mr. Peabody, before we move to the organizational structure, we just had a few colleagues that came into the room. I think it would be good for us to give them the floor for them to introduce themselves and tell us where they're from. When we were doing the general introduction, I know you all came late. When we were doing the general introduction, we had, as far as expectations, what are our expectations in coming to this workshop? There were some colleagues that said that visibility, the establishment of the secretariat. So just piggybacking on that, it would be good that as you're introducing. Yes, those were. So it would be good that as you all are introducing yourselves, you give us a little bit about what your expectations. Why are you even in this room? And what are some of the key takeaways that you want at the end? We know that we have today and tomorrow. Today's for the private sector, tomorrow's for the government and the donors. So just give us your name and your background and your expectations.
My name is Paul King. The general manager of Global Logistics Services. The shipping and logistics company, and there's a few business that I would take. I was just told my boss, the essence is in, and I've been wow, this is, I think, something we've been working on with the custom brokers and the NOCI, for a long time, but this would be the right time for us to come here and see what exactly we can do with the secretariat. We establish it right here. We're going to be able to work with it, we can be able to work with all the different parties and bring out ideas and some people together that we can strategize and we can move forward with. So I'm very happy that it's here and these are places that we can research and do things together. If you want the things in the logistics industry, you can reach out to us and for our insight and we can study it and get over together and be part of it. So I'm happy that we're here today. Thank you, buddy. My colleagues are here.
My name is Eke. I'm the logistics officer, GLS. So that one of the pieces.
So my name is Lawrence Wilson. I'm the facilities manager for GLS Group. And just to piggyback off my manager's input, the next steps after creating the secretariat would be to actually create infrastructure required to house these economic zones. And that's something that we're very excited about. We've also taken major steps in investing in infrastructure because, like you mentioned, the market was vibrant. There was a lot of investment, and that is driving over the last couple of years. We're hoping to bring that in and just to facilitate the free flow of movement of goods and to trade. And we think that's the next step. Thank you.
So then we talk about the organizational structure of the secretariat. So, when you get an organization, you try not to make mistakes 2, 3, 4, 5 times. So this is very important because I would you don't want to make you don't want to have to make mistakes of the secretariat that some businesses make with their boards. We want this secretary to be very professional, very efficient, not just like a pilot. So not to have anything against boards. So the structure, administration, and coordination, of course, every organization must be administered and coordinated correctly. It must deal mainly with the regulatory compliance, so it will also have a regulatory part to it. Investment promotion, facilitation, and awareness, and then monitoring and results measurement. Sometimes you say monitoring and evaluation, but these days it's monitoring and results measurement. And then stakeholder, most important part is stakeholder engagement and communication. So that will be the skeletal structure of the secretariat. Stakeholder engagement and communication. Build and maintain relationships with entities stakeholders. So, for example, we have total logistics, we have Liberia, we have CSOs here. So all these groups are our stakeholders, and we're looking to continue to build those and maintain actually. You can build a team, you can step away, build relationships, including businesses in Liberia, in out of Liberia, and in local communities. So somebody asked me, how are the local communities, what are we going to do? So for example, we have the cocoa planters in Liberia, for example. And if we have people coming to establish processing plants, cocoa, that group will be very important stakeholder contacts. So that's how we have to build with them. Develop communication materials. One of the things to do is that communication, the act of communication is being developed. If you don't have efficient, coordinated communication, you can set up the wrong information, people will take it the wrong way, before you can correct it, it's too late. So we must make sure that the secretary have an efficient or develop efficient communication materials in campaigns to promote the SEC brand and inform stakeholders of what we do. Like for example, Elza. We have to make sure.
The name is correct.
Yeah, the name is Elza. Make sure that name is branded correctly, or almost coordinated, and to put that brand out there, especially people knowing who we are.
This is a big rebrand though. Now you're talking about the whole economy. How to attract investors.
Exactly.
So you're NIC has been doing this for a while. We know how they've been.
Right.
It's a big burden. Mm-hmm. So by extending and opening up with Elza and having other partners involved, because it's not just saying come to Liberia and invest. We have these zones.
That's right.
When you have partners, NPA, GLS, LIBA, all at the same table, it kind of changes the conversation. Because I think we've all been working in vacuums for a while. So when you're looking at this economy, Elza it's going to be a big rebrand.
As a matter of fact, Elza is supposed to bring all those things together.
Okay.
Right? So I was talking with the communications team here, and we're looking at what do we sell. Elza, as an entity, what do we sell to people who will come? So we look at things we have all kinds of infrastructure, nice landscape. Look at different places. You can come back to my work. If I ain't even nothing to sell, I mean, I'm not sure. Initially, we look at it. But in the end, look at we got the highest rainfall in West Africa. We got the most land in West Africa. Yeah, forests. Right? So we're gonna sell. We sell those things. We show our water, our resources. We show our bush. That's our bush. You know, you show those things that you have.
So you're selling the potential.
Yes.
Mr. Peabody, I think piggybacking on Gabriel's question, and I know that we have an agenda, and we're following this agenda, but as you're going through your presentation, I like the dynamic discussion that we're having, because I think we're pulling all of these things out. I think piggybacking on Gabriel's point, we know that right now in Liberia, we have all these different authorities, agencies, that their terms of reference overlap, their roles and responsibilities. So my first question to you is that, I think, what is it about ELSA that, and I mean you were talking about it, what is it about ELSA that's going to be clear that we're not confusing ELSA with NIC, we're not confusing ELSA with Ministry of Commerce, we're not confusing ELSA, so that we don't feel that ELSA is coming into a space and competing with existing agencies? That's my first question. My second question to you, because we're in this discussion with private sector stakeholders, we know that there are a lot of players that are not in this room right now. But part of the reason why they're not in this room is because they don't know about ELSA, right? So we can take that into consideration. But how do we attract the private sector to see ELSA almost as like a one-stop shop to address some of the issues and challenges that they're facing in the sector, right? Because I think, and just as a background for some of you all in this room, I was working in the private sector with a oil palm company for 6 years, a Malaysian company out in Cape Mountain. And some of the points that you raised, right? Like, for example, when you talk about refinery, right? A lot of the vegetable oil that is consumed on the Liberian market is refined palm oil. And you have some of the big players, the big oil palm producers, at one point in Liberia that were here, that were trying to figure out, where do we build a refinery, right? A central location where we can build a refinery to reduce the importation of vegetable oil that's coming into the market. So I think my question to you is that, how is ELSA going to be a one-stop shop to address some of the key issues that some of the private sectors players are having, so that it's not like they're not in the room, not because they don't want to be in the room, but because no one is solving their issues, no one is addressing their issues in a way where they're moving forward, right? And so if we want ELSA to be the driver of private sector and domestic investment and foreign investment, we need to consider those things. So I think it would be good to get your insight on it.
Right. Thank you very much. So like what you said, and we'll see at one time, we held one of our proposed zones. I think even the SAPZ was held by NIC, and then NOCI, I think, was holding the Monrovia Industrial Park. And then I know at one time they had proposed RIA, but when I talked to GLS2, they were establishing some form of system at the airport. It's one of the zones, it's a proposal zone in that place. But other zones, the good thing about it is that even the MOCI, NIC, all those people held those proposed zones for a while. It's only ELSA. Only ELSA can designate an area to be a zone. Nobody else under the Act. You can hold it, you can give you some money to do this stuff, but you cannot designate the business as a zone except ELSA. ELSA alone has that authority. So that's one of the defining things about ELSA, right? And another thing is the fact that ELSA, if you've been to the free zone recently, a space was built. So at that space, anything you have to do with business, everything will be co-located, and it will be like they will be piggybacking off ELSA's property. We'll have LRA there, especially for the zone. They will have her regulations and everything there, especially for the zone. Turnaround time frame for business registration for businesses that be registered in the zone. And that will be taking 1 month, 2 months just to register a business.
Coming to Monrovia.
Yeah, if you're going to do business with its own, all those places will be the Ministry of Finance, LRA, anywhere that you have to do businesses, normally you will be within the zone. So they will try to make sure that they have this what we use of low basis.
Yeah.
the ease of doing business report now will show that if you're doing business in Nigeria, you know, it's going to drop because of that. So you don't have to be from China establishing a big business to be effective at that. Even if the Chinese come and set up the zone and your small company supplying that Chinese industry, you will also benefit. That's why we have the zone. We have the zone somewhere called enterprise development. Because small businesses will need to develop. We go ahead and work. So small businesses that want to do business with international agencies within Liberia, maybe 5 acre cocoa, we have to set up a business, their cocoa business, then deal with the Chinese, and we continue to work with them until they come to the point where they can grow or whatever. So we're not going to leave small businesses in Lebanon because the Chinese are here. So ELSA is going to work with all these people, putting them in direction, providing information, holding their hand to a certain point until they become, like it says, we'll host workshops, cover all those issues, seminars and forum to keep stakeholders. What are stakeholders? Besides GLs and CSOs, stakeholders are also those small farmers. So we would take a program and also keep them informed and gather feedback, like he said, like Tupac said, gather data to make sure that we look at things. What do we do? How do we do it? And stuff like that. So those are some of the things that we will be doing. Yeah, secretariat actually.
Yeah, so just before we move on to secretariat, I understood that SI is currently developing its regulations. A group of experts, and I think these very soon. And we also know that there are regulatory bodies so I'm kind of concerned about the level of coordination between you and we don't begin to create failures. We have to really do more on the level. So we need to addressing that. Because as we go about it, we develop tools, but we also need to be focusing on the existing ones so that we are creating good patterns. As CSOs, we are here to make sure that everything is going to collaborate. My expectation, the level of coordination is very important. But if not, then we'll just be able to happen. So I would like to actually understand what are your plans in terms of coordination, coordinating with other stakeholders. In terms of the regulatory and the bodies coming together to make sure that these regulations, etc.
Thank you very much. It's not very regulation. So actually,
I like to keep it peaceful.
Yeah. So actually, the consultants are working with the current regulators. They're not looking to change anything, but they're looking to make the regulations that will be front-facing to customers, they're looking to make it attractive. So they're working to see how the regulations are not like police, but more like attracting and this is time is money. Right now, people who are doing business in Liberia, they have a problem with registration. They have a problem with payments. They have a problem with almost everything. If you don't do business in Liberia, as soon as you finish mounting the hurdles and clearing the hurdles, sometimes you don't pack up a lead. A lot of people worry about that. So the idea is not to change the regulations, but to make it easier to navigate. So that's why we're working with LRA and working with all those agencies that are involved in the regulations. We're going to see how we can cut some of the regulations down, maybe 10 bullet points, 3 bullet points. So that's That's the issue. So it's not changing and removing, no, it's just making it, more feasible to not streamline it and make it more navigable.
There's a lot of other issues.
Yeah. So like you said, we're not just bending our head down and just cutting off and chopping. We're working with the LRA and all those other bodies just to make sure some of the regulations are feasible. If we read some with the regulation, you're like, what? Who's supposed to do all this? It's only business. I mean, seriously, if you just go home and check for some current regulations, you actually want to go and do some schedule work.
Mr. Peabody, sorry, I think for the sake of time, since we're on this agenda, I don't know how far you are in your presentation and how many were slides. Okay, just one more slide. So I think it would be good after you finish your presentation, then we start going into the questions and the nitty gritty, because I think that you have highlighted some key areas that we would want stakeholders to let us know what's missing, what have we not captured, so that even tomorrow when we're talking to the government partners and the donors, we are able to build on that as well.
Right. Thank you very much. So the engagement communication, each department works collaboratively to fulfill the secretariat's objectives. Of course, once and the membership of the secretariat is voluntary, once they get together, of course, all those things will come together. So those departments will put out some kind of memorandum and say membership to the secretary is not open. We're hoping that people will volunteer to participate. Because we're not going to form that secretariat ourselves. It's going to be open to membership after this. So we're hoping that Mr. King will have some of his professionals in the secretariat, hoping that CSO will also be the secretary, MP, right? And he will provide some measure of professionalism and on that body. Okay. So the secretary reports directly to the authority board, SEC authority. We have a current board of 5 members, and the secretary provides quarterly MRM reports, evaluating the SEC components. And the reason why I say MRM is monetary and resource measurement is that when you do resource measurement, you measure from the base to where you are now. With any kind of monitoring activity, you're not just going to evaluate the city but you measure from the baseline where you are. That's kind of data we took off something from. When we started early, where are we now? How much money did we start with? How much money do we in the country now? How much foreign direct investment? All those kind of quarter reports are in the purview, or will be in the purview of the secretary. And then annual report summarizing achievements. Some of the qualitative data, what are the achievements? We now have 5 zones. We never had any zones. Each zone is bringing in at $10 million, for example. The challenge is, what are the problems we're having with the zone? What are the problems we had? How do we come out those problems and what are the future plans? Of course, performance and equity are key. I'm sure next year, this zone or the secretariat will be a part of the performance management by the national. Our chairman has a site performance management contract to say all the things that he will do this year will be done. So this accountability performance review will feature in that document. Our job in the policy department allows us to make sure we indicate all those things that we've done in the year, which will be reviewed. So all these items are some of the items that will come in the next year. Right now, we're doing it for only the 4th quarter. The next year, we'll do it all 4 quarters, and we achieve, and we will have all these SEC targets, investment, job creation, other economic metrics, responsiveness to investor and stakeholder needs, when you hear that one about investors, if you know how people are coming into this country and people are taking money from them, millions from them without any result, any kind of, and have random away from the country. Under the SEC, that will not be allowed to happen. Not every investor will come to Liberia Post will come to invest in SEC. We want to make the SEC so attractive that if you come, you would think the best place to come to invest will be via the SEC. Right. So that's the kind of things the secretariat will be looking to promote. Accountability and performance review, but of course, all these things will be in a contract that we put up there by our chairman. So the term of reference effective from zero approval and renewal interpretive process. We don't have their 5 years or 10 years. It will be reviewed annually and to ensure that it's in alignment with the SEC authority objectives and be amended based on the evolving needs and priorities. The secretary will have a 2-year service period out of which time, and leave for offices may be established based on a voluntary pool. So, in essence, there may be a voluntary pool of people, and then people, elect to make themselves available. In that voluntary pool, either take a name in it, keep it in it, and then at a particular time, we would either have 5 to 7 voluntary members of the secretariat. Members of the secretariat will be drawn from the sector of private public, we would say that, and then we will make an announcement here for the establishment of the secretariat. We will join based on this announcement, members can volunteer for the services. It will be 2 times every 3 months or more. And we will do all benchmark because for the kind of work and things that we do in the secretariat, especially, I think 2 times may be a little bit too little. And so we review all those benchmarks. Of course, the secretariat will have to institute all those roles and responsibilities. That each meeting they will come up with the results and propose actions for the next period. And we also have a question about the remunerations. And then we talked to the executive chairman yesterday, and he noted that it will be in honorarium and it will be determined by ELSA. And the reason why we're doing honorarium is legal, but it does not point to the fact where we go look, and then the members start to fight over money. So it's an honorarium. You give them money, you're told thank you very much for the service, and of course we will regularly do feedback about is it how certified it's what we're doing, blah blah blah. So basically, that's it. Thank you very much.
So at this moment in time, look at the agenda. We'll be moving into quick discussion questions for you all. But before that, we're allowed to open the floor to any questions. The presentation was just to give you some context, and for those who came late, we'll be able to give you more background as far as what's been done. But any questions that you may have for the authority, you have the members here. They're eager, they're willing to learn. I think one of the key things that we've heard here is we need to build awareness. That's one of the main things, awareness. And then after the awareness is understanding who will be willing to volunteer to make this actually happen, to keep this moving forward. So I'll open up the floor. Anybody has any questions, feel free to ask.
Yeah, go ahead.
Thank you once again. I took note of your presentation. 2 points that you actually spoke about that were very important. The first one was the ease of doing business.
Correct.
And in our experience, we've also sort of realized that a lot of agencies work in isolation and silo. And what happens is that because there's very little information flowing, it's very difficult to get things done. Has the Secretariat thought about forming PPPs with the private sector? And the benefit for that is your relationship with the various state agencies, the ministries, etc. It's much stronger that any private entity can have. That would facilitate business. It would also give investors confidence because they know that as a member in the PPP, you are invested in this. Because what's happening right now in places like, for example, the commercial park, is yes, you have the investments, you have the private sector, but everyone just works, in isolation, in silo. There isn't much partnership. We have had meetings with some members of the ministry regarding ways to improve the infrastructure. What you realize is that there's not much traction because there doesn't seem to be a clear line of action in how these things can come together. I believe that is a gap that you can fill. You give confidence to investors, you give confidence to the private sector. You are also engaged because now you have skin in the game.
Right.
So you're more motivated, and also it helps meet some of your requirements and objectives when it comes to, for example, job creation, etc. And then speaking on that as well, and something that you can speak about with your funding agencies tomorrow, the government agencies, and also the foreign investment. You can speak to them on how such a partnership will allow them to sell the idea of investing in Liberia. Because a lot of them again would also face with the challenges. Okay, we want to do some sort of social investment in here. We're not here for the return, we're here for the social improvement. But we also worry about the stability of the businesses that we invest in. How do we know that the money that we're putting in is actually going to get to the end user? Whether it's struggling social demographic, whether it's a particular sector that you're trying to improve. So I believe that is a gap that you can step in, and if you're able to come in, you might not have the financial capacity in the early stages to come in with some, but I believe there's other aspects to the partnership that you can definitely plug in and help the private sector to come in. In other words, we're going to have this conversation again.
Well, thank you very much. As a matter of fact, you know that the secretariat hasn't been established, so it means that they've not done anything. So when we talk about the members of the secretariat, we're not talking about individuals. So let's say, for example, GLS.
Yeah.
We hope that you'll be a part of that secretariat. The ideas you have from experience, it's a good thing that you can bring the idea into the secretariat. Not necessarily only you, but GLS being represented by you. So that's the kind of thing we move forward. And any kind of secretariat that will be set up, people coming back from the background of industry, coming with the kind of knowledge, kind of intelligence that's required for business. Well, business is not rocket science. You don't have to put rockets in hole. There are certain things that if you don't know it, you just can't do it.
Yeah.
Right? You get people like what you said just now. Somebody who doesn't get it. So we need people that will be in the secretariat, come in that direction, form PPPs, form those kind of engagements and those kind of associations. Yeah. Let's work with it and let's be able to talk, bring awareness to avenues, associations that will move us forward. Let's look towards the future. And that's the idea of the secretariat.
Sure. Mr. Peabody, just to add on that, I think the idea is that you want players that are already in the sector that know the issues and challenges to be the ones to find a solution, right? Because we already know what's happening, right? And we know that there are limitations even with government institutions and agencies. So I think that this is part of the reason why we want these players in the room so that we can be innovative in finding the solutions to address the issues that we're facing.
Right. Another thing too is think about it. You have a very powerful secretariat. Someone asks you, say, so who are the members of the secretariat? And you tell them, say, look, we got this company, key players there from this company, 7 big companies with brilliant ideas because their businesses are growing because of their ideas. So we're not looking to have members of the secretariat appointed by the office of the president. Nothing wrong with the president appointing, but we want people who will come. And when they provide ideas, it's because they live those ideas. They use these ideas.
Have there been successful PPPs here that we can look at? As far as just
Well, there's been PPPs.
existing PPPs?
Not really.
Okay.
Not really.
So that will
not
be
that I know of.
So there's an opportunity.
There's an opportunity.
Big opportunity next year.
Because I think that's a strong point. If you can make it attractive for investors, it will be a little bit easier for the partners and governments to say, hey, foreign investors, here's a place that's safe, secure, and transparent. If you bring your money here, it's not going to get lost.
And the thing about it is what he's proposing, and then he proposes that there will be many other proposals. The same secretariat that will push those things. In all the different, and once it's pushed, or once they're pushed, then it comes to the point where now they push it outside. That would when we have all these seminars and trainings and try to make sure people understand that the SEC will not just thrive on its own because it's there. There's one more thing, because you have SEC, it's just supposed to work like a flower, like a it can't work. There are many ideas. Take for example, you know how many SECs in Nigeria have crashed? I saw one fabulous, everything you can think about there. When you even one of the SECs in the state of New Jersey, it's so beautiful. Streets for bicycling, but it's non-inhabited. Nobody's in.
Because everybody, I think it's also really important to talk about the ones that have failed as we're establishing these ones in Liberia, right? To understand why they failed, so that we don't replicate those mistakes.
And we also have those that have succeeded.
Yes.
Dubai started as an SEC, right? I think what they had to do, of course, they have a lot of oil and everything else, but it's not because they have oil that will succeed, but it has a lot of thinking go into it. So we also have a lot of thinking, and secretariat actually should be behind a lot of that thinking because their industry and other agencies. See? So that's the reason why this idea of secretariat is something we should actually keep, make sure that it works for us.
Any other questions?
Yeah, for me, it's the body that is actually supposed to put especially the private investors together, I think supposed to have been Shiva Commons. So I don't know how you guys are relating with them currently because they are key. Okay. And then all these years they've actually tried to bring private sectors together and then they've pushed towards that. Every year we have meetings. So I don't know how you guys are relating with them now because they are key stakeholders for establishment. And the one basic challenge that especially for investors are having in Liberia is the rural sector. So I don't know how you guys intend to put policies in place to protect private investors because that's where we're having a problem. Sooner you go to the courts and then you confirm that it's a private sector, especially a foreign company, you don't have interest of the court sector. So that's key area that you are going to focus on and so that you guys can address that. I'm sure that's basically one of the reasons why companies like Total, like Coca-Cola, all those companies that, and those ones are key. Because that's why I think that this establishment is very much key. Because at the end of the day, the company is, even a new one, this company is about to be good. You guys can intervene and say we can salvage the situation. Because companies like Total to leave, companies like Coca-Cola to leave, those are key companies that other companies can reference for investment. If they want to know why Coca-Cola left at the end of the day. So those are key things. With your initiative, that I'm sure those is key to at least protect those companies that may want to leave as a result of one or two challenges.
You see, that's the whole idea about the secretariat. So that kind of idea, it was says it could be a part of the secretariat. That's why I said anything between 5 and 7. Yeah, sure. Yeah. So that idea is good. As a matter of fact, sometimes we're understood as an establishment of a business court. I don't know how often it's gone, but we're not hearing about it. But you know, sometimes money is a conviction. So a lot of people don't get that kind of thing. Sometimes it doesn't even reach there because of the premise that will be solved and then it's not solved. Okay. So the secretariat did pick up the secretariat.
So there's this idea that, you know, as we're pushing for the establishment of the secretariat, how do we ensure that there's government buy-in? That, for example, even the support with the establishment of the secretariat and ELSA, that it's not just like the donor community that's pushing it, right? Like we're sitting right now in the USAID office, right? We know that there's a lot of support from the international partners to push private sector, because they know that as far as like the driver of development is private sector, it's not donor, it's not aid. So how do we ensure that we get the government buy-in and the government ownership on this, that today, tomorrow, when the donors and the partners are no longer, putting their money here, the government itself will be the one that takes the initiative and sees the value in it.
Well, you see, the thing about the secretariat is that it's in it's an entertainment movement to ELSA. ELSA is not set up by donors, right? As a matter of fact, I was in one meeting and basically what they were trying to say in that meeting was that donor meeting will not develop its own. Donor meeting cannot. If you take donor money, it's a possibility that the zone will not function as a business, and then it will go down the drain as soon as it didn't happen. So the main emphasis of what they're trying to say was, don't be dependent. But the idea too with the secretariat is that it is supposed to compel the zone to do business, good business. That's why they're there. That's why we're going to have people from industry and maybe a few from places like the commerce ministry, and stuff like that. But it's going to be represented by I call it, by industry, government, other private sector people. So basically, that's how we're going to look at the secretariat. Not as a donor tool, but actually as a tool to propel ELSA to profit making job creation. So you want to ask a question?
Oh yes. I just want to check something. Now, for ELSA, I know everybody has been talking about it. Now, what about the SMEs? Now, does ELSA have like zoning for the SMEs, like people that want maybe a small slave farmer, a young seller, for export? So do you like have maybe you say Delta is the zoning for slaves,
right?
So you can get those small farmers. So one person now takes all the slaves.
Central location.
Right. Yeah. Yes. So those farmers, those slave farmers come out to the central location and drop their products. Like that zoning, because before the big guns come, what is ELSA doing for the SMEs?
Right. So there's a part of that. ELSA has one of its zones there to be designated as a special agro processing zone, and they also have hubs, collection hubs, where various farmers can go and aggregate different kinds of crops there. Because the idea is not necessarily to have farmers aggregate and export, but let's assume there is a company who has somebody already producing processed snails on the premises of the SAPZ. So now we have this department called the Enterprise Development, and I say that we're working a lot with the SMEs. So we have a company that's processing and exporting snails. We're going to work with you. You're going to sell to them, and they're going to process and export. Okay? So, and that's what we're doing with all those different kinds of small businesses, whatever that can be processed, whatever to bring the machines to process, we have, like I said, aggregation zones for them to sell to the processing units. So that's been envisioned already. It's not being fine-tuned, but that's the vision. Because there are a lot of people producing a lot of things because of the lack of processing and infrastructure, roads and stuff like that. Most of those things, they're built away, they're destroyed. I've seen whole truckload of billboards just melt on the highway because of the road and because of lack of market. So hopefully, and that's what the idea is, we'll do more for those small people. People on the farm, in the farm, people have abandoned rice. At one point, they have abandoned the production of more rice That's a restaurant prior was still in the kitchen, but in transport, but it processed. And they just eat all that rice. So the next year, you cut the production. Of course, they have to do that. What did they do the last one? And to process 1 cup of rice, we calculated to be like almost very disingenuous if you have a machine. Fresh. You have pounds, you have thin. What incentive for growing rice and came into all that and then Liberia is killing you and all that?
I think that's a valid point with the MSMEs. We're working with also Commerce and the Small Business Administration, that department, as well as we have small businesses right beside you right here, getting feedback from legal there, because they're also the ones on the ground and the challenges that they have to deal with. They don't have connections with the bigger players, but they do have the products that they want to sell to market. So how do we connect those?
Right.
And that's where the secretariat and the authority will be there to be able to be a
we had a stakeholder engagement first.
Yeah.
It was because of the special agri processing zone. So we have gone through all that. But now the authority, the zone authority, is authority on all the zones that we created. So including the SAPs.
Okay, thank you. There's something I think Liberia has been very simple. Commerce is not listening. I feel that they are not listening to that systems. I don't know whether it's revenue wise, ELSA, or you have something on this issue about someone or a store selling both retail and wholesale. Why the person is there selling wholesale and retail. What do you have some regulations that will come up and say if you are selling wholesale, you will wholesale. Don't sell retail, don't do retail. Okay, and that's one. And the other one is you hide some businesses that are specifically for Liberia, like send money, all the stuff. But you see, international company come or foreign company come, you see them money send. You see them doing what Liberians supposed to do. They take what the wholesale. Do you have anything that's else that will have some regulations or that will be able to help us and give up to also versus how that we will be able to succeed in getting the results?
Okay, all those things are policies that are so they're not strange. It's just that it hasn't been tested. I think that's something we all should test. Because it basically started with Exodus on Berry Street. Exodus is selling wholesale drinks, but then also have a shop. And you have people sitting there and they sell drinks by retail. Same thing with people who have diabetes producing ice. And some people talk about this. Nothing is actually done. It's not tested. A lot of things are just not tested in Nigeria. The motorbike people should wear protective gear before getting in the streets, but they don't. So, and there's nobody who's been there to say, look, just because of politics, don't aggravate those people. So if you go to JFP, you're not going to lie on JFP. If they institute some policies, things will be corrected, but the political will is not there. So maybe Liba needs to come up and sue a few people. Sometimes the government just can't do what you can do. No, seriously. So Exodus, I think we're still doing it. You see people come there with trucks and buy beer, and then right on the other side, people drinking retail beer. And a lot of people doing it in different sectors, which is not right. On opposite the guards, Lebanese and Chinese, and doing ice side by side. Ice cream, the Lebanese come.
But does this fall under the ELSA, or does this fall under Commerce's MNC?
Yes.
Because there's a Liberianization policy,
Yes.
and the enforcer of the Liberianization is.
Yeah, so that's what I'm saying.
So it's not Elsa's.
It's not.
So you don't want them to start going over and refereeing what another referee is supposed to do, but they can create that dialogue and conversation.
Yeah, the reason why I brought it up because you said that there are criminal world regulations and they are coordinated. I think you told me about the IC. They are coordinated with all entities, like Ministry of Commerce and IC. So why you people are coordinating with them? You also look at bring it out in your next meeting about particular regulations.
So if for example you're
People should bring it up.
if people should,
but we are not part of them.
But it's your problem.
This is not
But
the
you're
secretariat.
connected to them.
So wait, there's a secretariat.
So
We're
I
building a
think,
secretariat.
basically what I'm understanding because the norm is the work of this supposed to be set up secretariat is huge. And it requires, a lot of great minds to be able to actually sit on the table and redefine some of those policies. My problem I have is we have good laws, but the implementation is our problem. So exactly what you're saying, I went down on the side last time, the PTC commission. When the schools are opening, you have, retailers that will actually run to the school. You buy books, public books, and everything, and come outside and sell. But then when you get in the school, you notice that even those that are selling books, they are also selling retail. So I'm like, but why are you doing this? I mean, because if you do that, you create a situation wherein you will, strangulate the person who actually bought for you to go to sell, for retail. So, and people, I know that you got the Lebanese, you got the Lebanese, they are all there, but what they're going to make my pockets. And that tells you that our laws are not being implemented. We're not suffering from good laws. And if my memory serves me right, Liberia is one of those countries that have the best laws on it. But the implementation is our problem. And so with this secretariat to be set up, I think it requires great funds. They also, require intentionality. And we need to be intentional about what the secretariat is going to do. So we need to have some a body that will be forcible when it comes to the implementation. Otherwise, we just set up one fund secretariat, come up with fund regulations, and then at the end we pack it. So there's so many documents in we have to implement. So until we can redefine, rebring what we want to do and what we want to see happening, what changing the narratives, we're not going to get what I get this.
Because what the Fed Secretary is going to be faced with, more like a competition.
Exactly.
So he has to be very careful in defining and how he works along with the bodies.
I think that was part of it.
I mean, the private sector will be very efficient with you guys. Working with will be there, supporting ideas. The government could be able to, we're going to keep back with the government, of course. I'm telling you, because if you guys are set up specific strict rules and regulations that says foreign direct investment, who come foreign and who come in needs to follow this process. The guys in the government ain't know that they have a kickback for something they want to do.
They can take advantage of
They can take advantage of that. And then it's time to marginalize you guys and say that secretariat is just there.
So like they have the writing rights now. I think many of you heard about it. That is at Commerce, I think on 5,000 to 10,000 bags. That is being repackaged. And the story came out like about 2 to 3 weeks ago. So this money was being highlighted. A video from our RCI. The news also spoke about it, and they had a particular segment on that. So the ministry said that they were going to bring the rights, or destroy the rights, but then they're supposed to call key stakeholders to be present at the watching process for over 2-3 weeks. We have not heard anything. So like he talks about the kickback, who knows? Who might have gone there to have collected and who came.
I think we know that that's the reality, right? And I think this is part of it.
It's
so
so
even tomorrow, when we're having the conversation with the government and the donors, really to try to get the buy-in, right? And that was part of the question that I was asking. How do we ensure that government takes ownership of this and doesn't see it as something separate? Because once they see it as something separate, we'll be conflicted instead of working together. Okay, so I think that all these points we're taking notes of all these points. So, just to follow the agenda, we know that Mr. Peabody had done his presentation on some of the roles, responsibility, and some of the work that the secretary is going to do. But just in our discussion, are there additional key points or functions that we think is missing from the secretariat that we need to consider? And also, are there some key recommendations? I don't know, for some of our colleagues in the room that have had experiences with other economic zones, are there some key lessons, key points? I know that he had mentioned, Mr. Peabody mentioned that there was an economic zone in Nigeria that failed, right? Trying to understand why it failed and, taking some lessons from there. So I think around the room now, we'll just move to that, to getting feedback from some of the players in the room, so then we can move ahead. And all the discussions that we're having today, we'll also have it tomorrow with the government, with donor
And share what was discussed here today as far as the main points from the private sector's perspective. So yeah, we'll just take maybe 5 minutes. We'll hit the questions. You can take some notes down. And then from there we'll move. We'll skip this bottom part. We'll move it up. So we'll just go from next steps and we'll end with lunch. So essentially we'll be doing the breakout discussions. And we'll do next steps, closing remarks, and then lunch. So we don't have to break for lunch and then come back, because that takes a lot of energy after the food that's hit the stomach. So let's be mindful. So yes, just take a moment. We'll give you maybe 5 minutes, and then we'll come back and just discuss it shortly. Take some notes, move to the next steps, closing remarks, and then lunch. Yes, sir. So we're almost there. So we'll give you about 5 minutes.
So, thank you so much. My name is Martin Larry, the Liberia Association. I'm responsible for communication, public affairs, and outreach.
They're both very key, but we will look forward to
it. So, we can look at the issue of weddings.
Yeah.
A wedding is very, very key in the day-to-day operation. So, I will briefly across the table about the functionality of the secretariat. I think there's a need that people who have a private experience come to community awareness. I think I'll put it out there because it's a little bit more famous. So, in moving forward, I will present a few recommendations in the secretariat. So, for visibility, which is awareness creation, there's a need that we establish a very, very effective social media page.
They're already on
Facebook, Instagram, all social media platforms. We also use the outbound media, tables, viewer voice, but people can move by starting with what to hear when they start the secretariat. If we do that, the secretariat activities will become more impactful, and we'll have donors on the sector of the justice. We're talking about fire economic solution. We need to have a program like the secretariat is a think tank to try to support domestic investment. So in moving forward at legal level, we volunteer if the secretariat believes necessary with our expertise.
Yeah.
Also, we think it will be necessary to create an average on maybe you have a 1 hour, every 1 hour on major decision or you can draw actors across the table here awareness. Sometimes you want average people in the Canada and total Canada of economic schools. We then create awareness, not stakeholder together, create awareness. Last but not least, maybe the secretary will come up with a logo. All of our runners will assembly of data and your secretary logo on your social media pages. Will be very, very
the special so yes. They have a
yes. We get started you see how
so legal should get a copy of this.
Yes. On your social media pages. Yes. Be very, very impactful.
Really?
Yeah. So if we're looking at other rules or regulations in the local, we're talking about compliance.
Yeah.
Most of the businesses that are in Liberia, most of the international businesses, some of the issues they are personally engaged in is about recreating a little bit level playing field or reasonable way you have a compliance with some of the rules. For example, maybe someone is doing an investment like you maybe have 20 or more investment, then you see every year you need to go to like maybe just say you work there. You know they make about 40 to 50 million investment. So sometimes the processes are too much. So maybe the secretary can be recommend we give some of the level playing fee. Instead of using the paper process, we use a paperless process with more digital. So that would be
So to that point, the actual economic zone will have its own set of mandates and business processes. So the same processes if an investor wants to come to Liberia now and they have to invest, they'll go to maybe NIC, they might go to MOCI, they'll run around to different places, they'll hear different things, but they won't get a clear picture. The idea here with ELSA and the zones, once an investor comes to the country and says they want to get into anything, manufacturing, processing, instead of going to all these places, you'll go to one and you'll see all of the people that you need to see. Instead of going to their physical places, you'll become a one-stop shop. So I want to go into processing fish. I want to move, I want to do something with the fish here. There will be a zone designated maybe just for aquaculture. And in that, the processes to register your business, to get the permits, the licenses, everything will be done in one spot. So you've made some very clear points, and I want to make sure you captured that. They're willing to help you with the marketing, the promotion, and I think to yours, there's a comms team right now. The fact that you have a social media camera right now capturing this lets you know that they're putting the effort for awareness, but they need your support. So it's very good that we're having this.
So he's for where?
Mr. Ogibade, I think one of the points, I think one of the points that he made that even in our discussion with government, some of these ideas that we are pushing also pushes the government's agenda for decentralization, right? And so I think that when we're talking about this, we should also try to align with where the government is going. What we're asking for from these economic zones is, in essence, the whole idea of decentralization as well. That people don't have to come to Monrovia, but if you want to work in the southeast, in Harper, you don't have to come all the way to Monrovia. You set up an economic zone that's there.
Exactly.
Sorry, Fatih.
Yeah, so I was just saying, listening to what he said, we should add maybe a bullet for the rules of the secretariat to facilitate communication. Not just the media part of it, but when we do the evaluation and the results, measurement and all of that, they should share findings and all
The role of the secretariat?
Yeah. No, that's facilitated communication. It was in his PowerPoint presentation, yes. So all the information we share with the government about awareness. If the sanitary will sit at the table and decide what they decide, nobody gets to know what they supply.
And also,
But should we put that bullet point on when you were to
Yes, that's
so I think they're saying that not on the agenda, but on his presentation, when we're talking about the roles of responsibility, we'll put it under the secretary.
Okay.
So we'll make a note of that.
So last but not least, so all of our great ideas there, that's a very, very important point. I think it's a point of seat there. It aims to attract both domestic and foreign investment by creating a conducive environment for business operation within these zones. That's a point of seat already. So someone who have a catchy and captivating voice. You used to listen to on the radio in the morning that way, there's too much stress. If the girls get on the radio, when they talk, it's they're motivated in your voice. Then your short will be about maybe 5 seconds. Anyone wants to do business in Liberia? Yes. In some of the businesses that operate in Liberia, the success story can also be talking about it. We have about 1 minute. Very, very catchy. 1 minute. Yes.
Yeah, but the idea of the whole branding and visibility and communication, that's what we're here. And when Mr. Peabody spoke earlier, one of the points is you're going to set up a specific team responsible for communications, everything as it relates to branding and visibility of the secretary and how they support the work that others do. So I'm very happy to see you're as enthusiastic as you are about what we need to do. You have all these ideas. So once the secretary is set up, I'm very sure one of those people are be on the national meeting for communication along with us, and then we'll be able to do all of these things.
That's on the whole collaboration. All these screens.
So we'll expect people to support Elsa and the secretariat in a strong way.
Yeah. We have a recommendation.
So,
So I was thinking about like when we have this, when you guys have disputes, to like set up a conflict resolution team for these disputes with stakeholders and partners, and also like to make sure, like the lady said, these things are not just in theory but practically expressed. So we can put in measures, reporting mechanisms, frequent accountability measures as well, to make sure that these things are actually functional.
yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
So grievances.
And then at the level of the National Civil Society Council, which is the coordinating arm for all civil society organizations operating in Liberia, we also like to pledge our commitment to the process. And with regards to the issue of revenue raising and the decentralization aspect, the National Civil Society Council has a decentralized leadership in all of the 15 countries of Liberia. And we coordinate our affairs through our county coordinators. So whatever leadership you have at the national is being decentralized at the county level. And so we channel our, form of communications through our leadership when our decentralized leadership is part of the counties. So this is new for Liberia. I know that we do have so many regulatory bodies across the country or in Liberia, but the issue of awareness is key. And that is something I want to actually stress about, because you can have all of the things written, but if there is no one to actually say it, then you see it. And then besides, looking at our country, the literacy rate is so high. So if you decided to just centralize the issue of awareness raising at the central level, you forget about it.
Especially
exactly, the women and stuff. And for example, when we got set up as an organization, that was one thing that brought us to prominence. The moment we got set up and then we got so we left our entire, goals for which we were established, and we decided to go into awareness raising. So every message concerning Ebola, we took it for the Akuma, the media background, practice for 19 years in the class of the yeah. So it's kind of interesting to note that if you don't understand people, the way in which they relate to certain people, and I always tell people, if you have a message for God, the way Jesus, if you are a Christian, if you are a Muslim, you go to Muhammad, because they better relate to God faster and easier, clearer than any other person. So the issue of sending out a message is one thing, but who is sending it out and the trust related matters is something that is very key. So who do you give the message to?
Yes.
How do they send it out? In which manner and form? When, where, how? And so these are kind of the issue of awareness. So we are available whenever you want us to. I mean, I'm sure that we should become a part of it. 6 years in the first on the book. So we become a part of the secretariat, and then we collaborate our daily reports to see how we can help.
Thank you. Okay. So, where do we go from here? We met, we discussed, we had some presentations. Next steps and next plan of action. We'll be taking all of the notes, all of the discussion points, summarizing them, and also sharing the presentation so you all have that as well. But the conversation is just beginning today. I'd like to say that, this is like a first time introduction, and it's very important that you make a good impression. So with the authority being here, with the private sector members being here, we want to say thank you for coming and using your time. Business time is money, and you took a little bit of that time to come here. But the next steps of action will be essentially for us to take what was said here, put it together into a summary, Tomorrow, we'll have a discussion with the donors and government of Liberia. Make sure that these points are explained to them, and we'll also go to the same thing. And essentially, we'll be coming up with one document, one TOR, with terms of reference. The authority will be able to call you back to make sure you validate and make sure that everyone is in agreement with that TOR. And then you can move into the voluntary, okay, I want to do this, I want to work with this department. LIBA can say, okay, we are good with awareness, we want to work with your comms. NPA, with the disputes or maybe PPPs, ideas on that. The idea now is not just to pull our ideas, but to actually bring in data, information that can be collected and that can be put together and pushed forward, in addition to the awareness, because that's the first thing. So those will be the next steps. And before I move forward, I want to open up the floor for the chief of party here at Delta, just to give you all some closing remarks before we get lunch.
Hello, everyone. I'll just stay over here. I was going to come after lunch. I thought you were going to go longer, so I wanted to sit in more. So I haven't been a participant. We didn't work yesterday. We're catching up on some work today. And I don't know how many of you all will see tomorrow. Will everyone be here tomorrow? The same group? Government of Liberia. Yeah. So I think.
Please introduce yourself.
Yes.
Some people that don't know who you are.
Yes. I'm James Collins, Chief of Party of Delta. And Delta is the Data Evaluation, Learning and Technical Assistance Project or activity for USAID. We do USAID's monitoring evaluation work across supporting their 40 plus partners and supporting USAID. And so they asked us, the Economic Growth Office, which Joe Hoover is not able to be here today. I think we'll see him tomorrow, but that office asked us to support this activity. So we're actually happy to support through Moonlight this activity. I hope this is just, it seems like from Gabe's remark, this is the start of a longer process and a relationship. And I've seen Lasiza. I don't know if
Elza. We're branding,
rebranding and it's
Elza.
Yes.
Who's here from Elza? Okay. Yes, I've seen it. I want to thank you all. I've seen momentum, and there was someone that called me yesterday even confirming if I would be here today. But I see you taking that on and taking on that responsibility and growing. And we'll need that. Elza will need that strong commitment from people working for, but also those partners, those here in the room. So Delta's happy to play any role in Moonlight, any role that we can. Work with USA, and I hope that grows. But it's really heartening to see your space is a little small today. Sorry about that, but you filled the room with good energy. It seems like, and you've got some things accomplished. So this is the first start of many, hopefully. So thank you all for coming.
Thank you.
We really appreciate you.
Thank you.
And before we move to lunch, I just want to say thank you all again. And I want to acknowledge Sam K for an awesome job. We've been working together, organizing. The first part of this interaction between Moonlight and Elza was stakeholder mapping. And we're able to sit down and look at public, all of the people that we need to talk to, private, all of the people that we know about that we have to grow, because that list is going to be growing. And the donor community. So to make sure that we're not leaving anyone out of this conversation. A lot of these projects, a lot of these initiatives or programs start with a lot of momentum, but they miss out key components. Especially having the national CSO here is very, very important. So I want to say thank you all. But also, thank you, Sam K, for your great job, and I'm looking forward to continuing this. So we'll end this meeting at this moment. Lunch will be downstairs. Feel free, go downstairs, grab it. You can bring it up here. I believe, is there a meeting still going on in the other room?
Unfortunately, there's a meeting downstairs. You can also go outside if you want, but you guys are free to use this space.
So feel free
to go out here on the balcony if you want.
On the balcony as well. Yeah. So thank you all for your time, and this will be